There's a couple things in real estate that are really fun that we all know about. First of all, looking at houses is really fun. Everybody wants to just beeline to looking at houses. It is the fun part. The other really fun part, especially for realtors, is closing day or key day. The day you get to take possession of your new house is always a really fun day. Thanks for watching. My name is Crystal Lindeland, and I'm a real estate agent serving the Wasatch Front of Utah. I make videos about life and real estate in Utah, and I upload once a week. If you're thinking of making a move to Utah, I'd be happy to connect and talk about your move and what you're looking for in your next home. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss a thing. Today I'm going to talk to you about all the stuff that happens in between, which is highly dependent upon this, the real estate purchase contract, or REPC as it's lovingly called in Utah. Every state has a different statewide form that they use for a real estate purchase contract. So I'm going to point out 8 things today that are pertinent to the Utah real estate purchase contract in particular. The first thing on the contract is the earnest money deposit. Think of earnest money as like a promise to the seller to buy it if certain conditions are met. If those conditions are not met, then usually the buyer gets the earnest money back. One thing that's different in Utah is you have 4 calendar days, not business days, 4 calendar days to get your earnest money delivered to the brokerage. And then the brokerage has 4 days to deposit it. So other states hold this money in escrow by delivering it to the title company. The tricky part there is that both parties have to sign to release earnest money. In Utah, it goes to the brokerage account. So a principal broker will receive that money and it will all come out in the wash. Like the buyer will get that money attributed toward their purchase of their home, but after commissions are paid to the brokerage, it all kind of comes out in the wash. The second thing that most people don't know is on the contract is included items. You can see here it defines what included items means. It means items are present and owned. So if something is leased, it may not be an included item unless you write it in, but then it goes through all the different things that are included. And it also has this blank space for you to write in anything you would like included in this purchase contract. So there's no separate bill of sale. It's all included in the purchase of the home. Some of these make me laugh, but the things that are included are plumbing. Okay, thanks. Heating, air conditioning fixtures and equipment, solar panels, if they're owned. There's an addendum for that too. Ovens, ranges and hoods, cooktops, dishwashers, ceiling fans, water heaters, water softeners, light fixtures and bulbs, bathroom fixtures and bathroom mirrors, all window coverings, including curtains, draperies, rods, window blinds and shutters, window and door screens, storm doors and windows, awnings, satellite dishes, all installed TV mounting brackets, all wall and ceiling mounted speakers, affixed carpets. Thank you for leaving the carpet when you're selling your house. Automatic garage door openers and accompanying transmitters, security system, fencing, and any landscaping. Please don't try to remove the fence before you close on selling your house. The next section that is in the real estate purchase contract in Utah is about special assessments or HOA transfer fees. So if the property that's going under contract has an HOA, there's all kinds of wild things that can happen. HOAs can levy special assessments against a property that just go with whoever owns it. So this part of the contract specifies who's going to pay the special assessment. Also, it specifies who's going to pay the transfer fee. So one thing HOAs like to do is charge a transfer fee. Sometimes it's a flat rate. Sometimes it's a percentage of the purchase price. For example, I looked at a property today that had a 0.25% transfer fee. Well, on an $800,000 house, that's $2,000. That's a significant amount of money. So this part of the contract specifies who's going to pay any special assessment or transfer fees that may be levied by the HOA. The real estate purchase contract says a lot of things, but one thing it says is that you as a buyer have the right to do a final walkthrough of the property no earlier than 7 days prior to settlement. We'll talk about settlement in a minute, but that allows you to go in and make sure you understand the condition of what you're buying. So nothing has changed since the house went under contract, all the agreed upon repairs were made, you can do that final walkthrough, and that's actually in the contract. Another fun part of the contract is the provisions for default. What is default? Default is when somebody changes their mind for no good reason. And this can happen for a lot of circumstances. But if the buyer just gets cold feet and we're like past inspection and we're past appraisal and financing is fine and they just say, nope, never mind. I'm freaking out. I don't want to buy the house. The contract gives provisions and actually states that the seller will be able to keep your earnest money deposit, but they do not have to. They can be nice and give it back to you. It also specifies what happens if the seller defaults. So what if the buyer wants to buy a property and the seller changes their mind about selling it? What's the recourse there? Well, what's interesting in Utah is the contract actually says that the buyer can get their earnest money back if the seller defaults, and they can also accept from the seller as liquidated damages a sum equal to the earnest money deposit. So essentially, you would get double your earnest money returned to you. The last interesting thing in the Utah real estate purchase contract, and there's a lot more. If you have questions about these contracts, please let me know. Your realtor should be explaining every single section to you. We did not write these contracts, but we are licensed to explain them and fill in the blanks. The last fun thing that I'll go over is just the definition of closing and when the buyer is allowed to take possession. That is all in the contract. So you can fill in the blank about when you want to take in possession. Sometimes there's rental agreements if the seller needs more time to move out. But this is interesting. The closing means the settlement has been completed, the funds have been delivered. So the lender delivers the funds to the escrow closing office. Everybody signs. The closing documents have been recorded in the office of the county recorder. So that will never happen on a weekend. The actions shall be complete no later than 4 calendar days after settlement. So it could take up to 4 days. It's allowed to take up to 4 days to actually record, and that's what closing means. Closing means all of those conditions are met. So it's not exactly on the day you sign always. Having worked in another state, I find this document to be very all-inclusive. In the state where I worked, Washington, before, we had a real estate purchase contract that was maybe a little bit shorter, and then we'd have all these addenda for inspection and appraisal and financing and buyer sale of property and optional clauses for the HOA stuff. So I find this to be all inclusive and pretty straightforward. There's a whole lot more in it. So if you'd like more information, please reach out to me. I'd be glad to send you an example of a real estate purchase contract or talk with you about what it means, because it's good for me to explain it to you. That helps me learn, and we can learn together and make sure it's a smooth transaction every single time and you're understanding what you sign.